Hey there, y'all. It's Ms. Mazzola here to do another math lesson. But first, we're going to start with our math joke. And this week, we're going to be working on a review of multi-digit multiplication. So your joke is, why did the student do math on the floor? Because his teacher told him not to use tables. Get it? Tables to solve your math tables, work on the floor. Anyway. This lesson is going to be talking about multi-digit multiplication and our strategies that we use to do that. So before we do that, we need to talk about one math term. So you may want to get your math journals to write this one down, because this is important when you see math or multiplication problems on tests and assignments. Sometimes the directions will be a little bit confusing because it'll ask for this word. When you're solving math equations, specifically for multiplication, you have the answers have certain names. So the answers to multiplication problems are called products. And you may encounter that on an assignment or a test in the future where it might say, find the product of this blank equation. And what that means for a product is it is the answer to a multiplication equation, okay, or the X symbol, okay? It's the answer to a multiplication equation. So if I said find the product of 4 times 5, okay, so let's do that as an example. If I said find the product of 4 times 5, the product would be our answer. What we're finding right there is our answer, and that is the product. So the product would be 20, okay? So when we're doing multi-digit multiplication, what that means, multi means a lot or more than 2 or 1. And multi-digit multiplication is when we are multiplying bigger and bigger numbers, okay? And we have a couple of strategies that we've talked about this year for solving those. So I'm gonna model all 4 of those for you today. And you can write them down as notes if you want to, or just kind of pay attention to the one that works best for you. And then you can go back into the video as much time as you need, pause, rewind, rewatch, whatever you need to do. But this is just a review of the strategy so that when you do your assignment, you can remember the different ways that you possibly can do it. So the first strategy that we're going to show today is the distributive property. Distributive property, okay? And some of you may not remember that big word. Some of you may remember that big word. This one is where you're taking an equation, and we're going to use the same one throughout the whole lesson today, modeled all the different ways. So our equation that we're going to work with today is 35 times 7, okay? So the distributive property is where we pull that number apart. We want to pull this big number apart to make it easier for us to multiply, because counting by our 35s is a little bit difficult. But if we pull it apart, it might be a little bit simpler. So the way we want to do that is we want to pull it into 2 pieces. So I like to draw my distributive property frame. I'm going to draw it into 2 pieces. I'm going to pull it apart into 2 pieces. And I'm going to be multiplying inside of each of those pieces, because I'm still multiplying from 35 times 7. I'm still doing some multiplication there, but I'm going to pull it apart into 2 simpler equations for me to work with. And then in the middle, I need to put a plus sign, because I'm going to take those two pieces and I'm going to add them back together at the end. So both of these are going to be times 7, because I'm going to keep that part. I'm pretty good with my 7s, but now I'm going to pull apart the 35 to make it easier for me to do. I know that my 10s are pretty easy for me, and I have a strategy to help me with that. So I'm going to take this 35 and I'm going to split it into 10s and 1s. So the 10s in my 35 number is that 3 right there. But I know that it isn't just a 3. That 3 in the 10s place stands for 30, okay? And then the last piece I have is the 5. And so that is going to go in my other one. Okay, so I've pulled my 35 apart into 30 and 5. And it's a lot easier or more simple for me to multiply with these 2 different numbers. And if you look, if I were to put these back together, 30 and 5 put back together, that's why I'm adding them, would be 35. then I can go ahead and solve these. So 30 times 7, I know my strategy where I can cover up my 0. Oops, that was the wrong color. Let's try that again. I can cover up my 0 right there and do 3 times 7 first. So 3 times 7 would give me 21, and then I just bring my 0 back. So that one gave me 210. Then I can do my 5 times 7. That one I know is a 35. Okay. Now my last step that I have with distributive property is just to add these back together to get my final answer. So 210 plus 35, if I take my 10, add 30, I get 40. So I'm not going over the 200. So I've got 240 so far. And then I have 5 more left over in the ones place. So for this one, my answer would be 245. And that's solving it with distributive property. Feel free to pause, rewind if you need to, take some notes on this one. We're going to move on to our next strategy. So the next strategy that we use is called a ratio table. Ratio table. And I like to call these sometimes not ratio tables, I like to call them in and out boxes because we've done those a lot. And ratio tables are the same as an in and out box. So if we have our equation, we're going to remind ourselves we have 35 times 7. If we're setting up a ratio table, we want to set up our t. So we'll go ahead and draw our chart like that. I'm going to go ahead and make that straight. There we go. Okay, and then I've got my in and my out on that side. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to flip-flop this 37 or this 35 and 7 around on my ratio table. I'm going to put my up to 7 over here. I want to get up to 7 over on that side, and I'm going to do my 35s on that side. Okay. So with ratio tables, I'll remind you, we always start with 1. So 1 times 35. If 1 goes in and I'm timesing everything, if I'm timesing everything by 35, that's my rule, is times 35, and I want to do it up to 7 times. 1 times 35 gives me what? You're right, 35. So I can write that on this side. But now I need to get up to doing this 7 times. So one thing I could do is I could take this and I could double it, make it go a little bit faster. Okay, so if I double 1, I get 2. If I double 35, this one you might have to do a little bit of mental math with, but this one you're going to get 70. Okay, so 2 times 35 is going to give me 70. Then what I can do to get me even closer to 7 is I can double this again. So I'm going to do times 2 again. And 2 times 2 gives me 4. And then 70 times 2 gives me 140. Okay, so now I'm getting a little bit closer, and I might want to do times 1 jumps. And that's probably what you would do at this point. But you also, if you're really sneaky with your math, you could double the 4 again and get to 8, and then you would just subtract 135 to go backwards to the 7. But for our sake, we're going to go ahead and we're going to do by ones. So we're going to be counting up by 35. So let's extend our table a little bit. So we've got 5, 6, and 7. And we want to end eventually in this 7 spot. Find out what that gives us. So that first one, now we want to do 140 plus 35 to get our times 5. So I'm going to add 35 to that, and I get 175. Okay, now I'm going to do that again to get to my 6. So if I add 35 to that, I get 210. And then if I add another 35 to that, look maybe a little bit familiar of how we're counting this, then we get to 245. And if you notice, we got the same answer because we just counted up a different way with a different strategy. Okay, so that's the ratio table or the in and out box way of showing your math. The next way is to use the box method or the area model. And this is one that's popular for a lot of you guys, specifically as the multiplication gets bigger. Okay, so we want to use, I call it the box method. And for this one, we've got our 35 times 7, and it's going to be a little bit like the distributive property. So I'm going to need to draw an area model that's going to help me with this. And for that, I have to kind of recognize some things. I've got a 1 digit here and 2 digits here. So I have to set up my box to match that. So, excuse me, I need to have one side of it be one number, 1 digit long. So I'm going to do that on this side. And then I want my other side to be a little bit longer because I need to split it into 2 because I've got a 2-digit number. So I'm going to split this box in half like that. And I've got my 1-digit spot here and I've got my 2-digit spot up here. So if I look at my number, which one do you think I'm going to pull apart, or which one do you think I'm going to use for my single digit? 7, correct. That one's going to go right here, okay? And now, just like with distributive property, I'm going to pull apart my 35 to make it easier for me to count and to do my multiplication. So I'm going to pull my 35 apart into 2 pieces. And I like to pull these apart into 10s and 1s. It usually makes it a little bit simpler to multiply. I'm pretty good with my 10s. So I'm going to pull the 35 into 30 and 5. Now I've got 2 separate multiplication equations. My first one is going to be 30 times 7. And I'll put that answer right here. And then I'm going to do 7 times 5, and it's going to go right here. Okay, so let's go ahead and solve that. 30 times 7 is, 210. And then 7 times 5 gives me 35. Now, just like with distributive property, I take my 2 chunks. I've got chunk 1 and chunk 2, and I need to put them together, okay? So I'm going to add those 2 together, and I get my answer of 245. For me, box method is my favorite with multiplication because it lets me see the pieces and it goes pretty fast for me. But the last method that you might be able to use, and your parents might have been teaching you this, is just a little bit different variation on it because we don't do the full shortcut of standard algorithm until you get to 5th grade. But I'm going to show you how you could use the standard algorithm for 4th grade and still have it work, okay? So this will be the standard algorithm. All right. So we've got our 35 times 7. And with standard algorithm, we have to flip this. We have to make it vertical, okay? So we need to flip it into 35 times 7 and put it vertical like that, okay? So what we're doing with this one, standard algorithm, is just like doing the box method. It's just like doing distributive property. You're just pulling it apart, but you're not doing it with a box or in those 2 little parentheses eggs, okay? So your first step is going to be your ones place. You're going to do 7 times 5, and you're going to write it down. So 7 times 5, if I go ahead and solve that, 7 times 5 is 35. So I'm going to write down a 35 to keep track of my answer so far. So I've done the ones place. Now I need to do the tens place. Looking familiar? 3 times 7, or 30 times 7 since it's a tens. Okay, so 30 times 7 is 120. Here's where you need to be careful. You have to line up your place value. I can't write 120 like this, since when is 35 in the hundreds place? So you have to make sure that you line it up in the right spot. So I need to put 120, line up my place value, and the last thing I have to do is add them up. 5 plus 0 is 5. Oh, whoops, I wrote this backwards. I'm sorry. I'm having a little dyslexia this morning. Sorry, that was supposed to be 210. 210. There we go. Okay, 5 plus 0 is 5. 4 plus 1 is 4, and 200 plus 0 is 2. And we've got our answer. Same answer again. So when you're solving your multi-digit multiplication equations, when it is 2 digits by 1 digit only, you can do the standard algorithm if that works for you. All those other methods that we showed today, distributive property, ratio tables, and box method, will work great for any multiplication that you do, whether it's 2 digits, 3 digits, anything. But when you're doing 1 digit by 2 digits, 1 digit by 2 digits, you can do the standard algorithm because we can keep track of those pieces. But once we get into multi-digit where it's 2 digit by 2 digit, so for example, if I do 35 times 17, this one you will not be able to use the standard algorithm for, at least should not yet. That's not till 5th grade. In the next video, I will show you the strategies for how to solve that one. Okay? So review those strategies if you need to. Let me know if you have any questions, and good luck with your multi-digit multiplication this week. Bye, everybody.